You've been watching a live news conference with Governor Lincoln Chafee on today's major developments in the 38 studio scandal.
That's right, and we're joined right now by WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. And Ted, as we just heard the governor say, we all knew this bomb would drop, but we didn't exactly know when it would happen. So no surprise here. Curt Schilling must have been dragging his feet a little bit, getting to this point, hoping for some sort of Hail Mary at the last moment now. But the big question is, what about the taxpayers? How are we going to pay all this back? We heard him talk about refinancing. Where do we go from here?
Huge outstanding questions. I mean, as you say, this wasn't a surprise. By the time the company laid off all its workers, the company basically didn't exist for all intents and purposes at that point. So we expected a bankruptcy to come. But when you look through these documents we've all been poring over in the newsroom, they owe more than $150 million to everyone, starting with us. They estimate Rhode Island's owed about $115 million. Then unpaid wages to employees, even it said $160 to the Providence Bruins. So there's going to be a long list of people in bankruptcy court trying to get money out of the shell of this company.
You know, the governor has mentioned this before. He said it again today, that he's been trying to help the company find investors, but that's really been the key to this problem, that Schilling never had the opportunity of acquiring investors.
He never did, and that's what surprised analysts all along when Rhode Island decided to make this deal. Schilling had gone to Wall Street, he'd gone to venture capitalists in Boston and other places seeking money, seeking private investment in this company, and they looked at it, they thought it was an interesting idea, but they felt partly because Schilling was so, he hadn't had experience in running a company. He was a baseball player. They felt it would take, one of them said to the Wall Street Journal, a lot of babysitting over Schilling. And so he could never find that money. It's not a huge surprise he couldn't find it now when the company was distressed.
Well, I thought it was interesting. We were talking about the criminal investigation, and the governor was very guarded today.
Particularly for him.
Right, and we're all wondering exactly where is that coming from?
I think that has to do with the tax credits. You know, I know it's very confusing for people at home to keep all of this in mind, but the final Hail Mary pass for 38 Studios in some ways was this effort to get film and TV tax credits out of the state that could have kept them going for a little while longer, a lifeline. At the end of it there, we had them talking. They had borrowed money from Bank Rhode Island, apparently. They were in touch with a broker named Michael Corso, who's very well connected at the State House. I think there's going to be a very close look being taken by law enforcement at what promises were made, who was being told what, and where that went. So we could be seeing the fallout for this for a long time.
His first game came out in February. You talked about it on Newsmakers last week, that his games are just basically ordinary. There are a lot of games out there like this, right?
Tim White made that point, and our guest agreed with him, a video game analyst. You know, there's a lot of games with guys and elves running around in a fantasy world. And I don't mean that to belittle it, but that just shows, as the governor's pointed out, how hard it is to succeed in this. And on top of that, that's not the game we were funding, as I know you know, Mike. We were funding their second game, which hasn't come out yet, and is sort of like World of Warcraft, this very elaborate type of game. That wasn't supposed to come out till next year, so Lord only knows how they were going to get that far.
Right, but Curt Schilling really intended for this to be some sort of like little mini tech center right here in Providence. He really tried. We saw people moving here from all over the place. He meant well.
That was the idea, and that was the idea of the previous governor, he said. But, you know, Schilling faces a personal, perhaps financial catastrophe. Looking at that, he owned 83% of this company.
And we were talking about he had the moment to step in and pay that $1 million back, and he didn't do it. And that was a big sign of where he was financially.
And we haven't heard from him today.
Yeah.
Okay, Ted Nesi, thank you very much. We'll have much more on the developments in the 38 studio scandal in just a few minutes on Eyewitness News, live at 5.
For more on this breaking story, stay with Eyewitness News or log on to our website, WPRI.com.